Hi everyone, it's Diana Palm, the Love Witch, and I'm going to be answering some questions for you guys about the afterlife that I've been getting over and over again. I get so many questions every single month on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram, all regarding the afterlife. So I'm going to go into a series of videos here to answer your questions. In today's video, we're going to talk about premonitions. I get this question all the time from people who follow me on social media, and they ask me, what do I do if I get a premonition of somebody dying? What if I felt something or sensed something about somebody passing and then it actually happened? So this happens to people more often than you may be aware of. And it may be somebody that's not normally in tune with getting psychic information, following their intuition, or getting prophetic dreams. But it does happen. And what I like to tell you, first of all, is that you're not supposed to intervene. You're not meant to change the outcome. What this means is you have a sensitivity to death doors. Death doors are prearranged by every single individual on the planet before we even come here. We write it into our life journey. When our soul comes here, we actually select a certain amount of death doors for ourselves. We write it right into our journey, into our timeline, when we may be willing to go and what circumstances may be surrounding that. And I know this is difficult for many of you to hear, but we do select our own death door. When the survivors feel like the timing was wrong, the person died too young, or they were just getting their life together and then they died, it seems wrong to us. It always feels wrong to the survivors because we don't want to lose them. We never are ready to lose loved ones. But this is the biggest and most important takeaway. When somebody passes, it is their time. It is one of their death doors that they predetermined for themselves, no matter how the death occurs. Obviously, this may bring to mind about tragic loss, a violent end, or something that just seems too unfathomable. A person's soul does not choose to go through a traumatic ending because of the way that it comes about, but it may choose to leave at a certain time and in a certain situation because of the outcome that will happen for their loved ones in terms of incredible spiritual growth. Maybe the family that lost them learns a deep soul level forgiveness. Maybe it takes them to their knees emotionally and then they rebuild themselves and come back with so much more spiritual connection and strength. So sometimes we're pushed into thinking about death a little bit differently than we may become accustomed to, especially when somebody passes in a very tragic way. It is extremely difficult for surviving loved ones to think that they had any intentional thoughts about that at all, or that they could have possibly have chosen that for themselves. But that kind of mindset is coming from the physical perspective and not the spiritual one. You see, on the spiritual side, we're still connected to God. We're still connected to Creator and Source. We have this overseen picture and view of how things affect everyone else. Sometimes when somebody chooses to leave in a tragic way, it creates a ripple effect that changes laws, that inspires millions of people, or that really shifts the heart of somebody close to them and moves them into a higher spiritual vibration because they learn how to forgive, or they create a huge spiritual awakening in their loved ones. And so it's not about the focus being on the way they passed or the actual tragic events that occurred around it. It's more about the aftermath and what the surviving souls experience as they move through their own grief and heal their hearts and receive the blessing in this type of soul opening experience. You see, we can't have a soul opening experience without the pain and suffering. It's kind of by design that our greatest wounds become our greatest strengths, and that they redefine our life and who we become in the world. And it's through this healing and introspection that we become more effective in who we are as we're living and how we can impact or help other people. So sometimes when people die in a really tragic way, there are blessings for the surviving loved ones. A really common question that I get is when somebody has a dream about someone in the family dying, and then maybe the next day they die or the next week they die, and they always get a little bit panicked, like They were supposed to do something to change it. Now, this could be any kind of death. This could be dying from old age. This could be a car accident. This could be any sort of death, any kind of passing. Some people are just more sensitive to death doors, and those will come in the way of premonitions surrounding death and departure. There is a very natural ending phase that occurs with the soul when they've wrapped things up spiritually on earth and they're ready to move into the other side. The circumstances of the death aren't as important as the soul being ready to move over and be in heaven and start helping all their loved ones spiritually from the other side, from the spirit world. It's a choice to make this transition and move into that higher vibration. So when a living loved one is very sensitive to a death door, they may become a little bit shocked or traumatized by the fact that they knew about death before it occurred. And obviously, this makes them think that they were supposed to do something to change it, that they were supposed to tell everybody, or that they were somehow responsible for shifting the outcome. So if this is you, I want to let you know that you were not meant to prevent it. Being sensitive to death doors may be a special calling that you have. It may be a special spiritual gift that you have where you're just very sensitive to death doors. I do talk about death doors more in my book, I Don't Know How to Let Them Go. I'll put that link down below this video. Aside from premonitions, you may also just get a gut feeling or a knowing within your body that someone's time is running short. The most challenging thing is to allow it. You may be just witnessing it or have an awareness about it, but you're not being called to act. You're not being called to change it. What I tell people when they're having premonitions or a knowing or a psychic feeling about something is that it's more about you being tuned in with that. You don't have to be a medium to get a premonition of death. Although if you are sensitive to death doors, it may really be worth it for you to develop your mediumship and to get more comfortable with the spirit world. You may find that this is your calling to really work with the spirit world and to help people with these transitions. I think the biggest takeaway is to let you know that this is normal and that you're not being called to change the outcome. When you suddenly receive information about somebody's passing, it can create a lot of drama and conflict in your life. It can make you feel super responsible to change the outcome or to do some huge gesture to prevent it. And it's really important for you to know that that's not why you're being shown a glimpse of this. But what I personally do when I'm given those insights is that I do spend more time in prayer. I do spend time meditating on it to see what kind of peace I can bring to the situation before the passing occurs. It also tips me off that I may need to be there more for family and friends after the loss to help them through the transition. And if you're sensitive enough to know death doors are arriving, you'll also be sensitive enough to know if you're being called to intercede with the family or to step forward to provide comfort, love, or to do something in a physical way to help them. Maybe it's financially, maybe it's emotionally, maybe it's to help them organize a funeral or help them get through all the aftermath of the passing. When I first started feeling death doors, it was really shocking to me. In fact, the first one that I felt was with my best friend, and I finally felt that we were on such a beautiful friendship level. We had worked out so much karmic stuff, and our relationship was finally in a really good, healthy place. Plus, I saw him improving his life in many other areas, and I was like one of his biggest fans. I was so happy he was changing things. The morning he passed, I was in absolute disbelief. I absolutely did not feel a death coming. I actually woke up that morning feeling like a miracle was coming. I remember going through my morning routine before leaving for work and thinking, everything is perfect today. Everything is exactly the way that I want it to be. And I had this really overwhelming feeling in my heart about perfection. And that's when I got the call that he passed. It totally shocked me. And just about a year later, the same thing happened when my little sister passed. In fact, I told everybody all day long that a miracle was happening, that I could feel it, that I could sense it. And I didn't know what it was, but it was something beautiful and big, and that a real miracle was coming, and that we should all be on the lookout for it. All day long, I felt this overwhelming, beautiful energy around me. That night we went to bed and we lost power because of a storm. So when we woke up in the morning, that's when I received the phone call telling of my sister's passing. So that was in itself pretty confusing for me. I thought, wow, my radar must be really off if I'm feeling a miracle and then somebody close to me dies. But it was pointed out that perhaps I was feeling more of the spiritual truth, that I'm feeling the energy of a spirit leaving the physical and moving back into the spiritual world, the higher vibration of oneness with everything, going back to where they came from in creation. And that they were elevating, that it was a celebration on the other side, that they would still be able to interact with us and help us and be a part of our life. So it made me shift my mindset around the way that I thought about death. And it really made me reevaluate and shift my mindset around the way I thought about death and loss. Of course, even knowing that, you still go through grief. It doesn't matter how well you understand the process of death in the spirit world. As a physical person, you're still going to feel the personal loss and the grief, and it's going to create different shifts in your life. But death is meant to, because we all interact with each other and we all inspire each other's lives. We all have an impact with each other, all the people that we're connected to. If you're one of those people that are receiving premonitions about death, you're feeling the death door, just know that you're not intended to change the outcome. As you receive that information, you can do with it what you feel is in your highest and best. Like I said, I pray, I meditate, I may send extra healing or extra angels to them and their family. I'm also keeping a watchful eye on if I'm called to act, intercede with the family, or help in any physical way. Otherwise, I hold space. I hold space spiritually and just add what energy I can for a smooth and beautiful transition so that there's no hang-ups in the spirit world. So they get quickly over to the other side and to the elevation of the spirit world. If you feel called to develop your spiritual gifts and you want to develop your mediumship, I have an excellent online program. It's called Master Your Mediumship, and that link is right below this video as well. Thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. I'll see you in the next episode.